Hi everyone, I'm Ian Fennelly. I am an urban sketching teacher and I've been doing this now for about 10 years. But I've been an artist all my life and I've been a teacher all my life as well. So teaching workshops, urban sketching workshops, is a wonderful marriage of the two things that I've done all my life, being an artist and being a teacher. And one of the things about creativity is that you learn so much about yourself. You know, we all make mistakes, we all do things and we think back afterwards, I wish I'd done it differently. And one of the things that I've discovered in my own career path over the years are certain things that I kind of wish I'd learned earlier or wish I'd discovered sooner. And sometimes, you know, people can come along and they can tell you something and they can give you advice. But I think when you learn it for yourself through experience and you make mistakes, it's much more embedded in your understanding. So I just want to share a few things, just 4 or 5 things that I kind of wish I'd known a little bit sooner. So before I got into urban sketching, I was mainly doing watercolours. I was working for lots of galleries and agents, doing commissions and just working all over the country, selling in about 10 different galleries. And it was great, but it wasn't really satisfying. And the reason it wasn't satisfying is really because I wasn't in control of the subject matter. I was working, you know, for other people, and I had to because I had to make money. But once I got into urban sketching, I was much more in control of the subject matter. I was able to manipulate the scene in a way in which I wasn't able to do when I was working on commissions. And I think the materials helped as well, because for a long, long time, I was really just using watercolour paints. And I didn't feel the watercolour alone was enabling me to tell the stories that I wanted to tell. Because for me now, urban sketching and drawing outside is very much about capturing the story that's in front of you and bringing things into the scene as well. And watercolour just wasn't doing that. It was very limiting. So one of the big things that I've learned over, say, the last 10 years is by varying the materials and using pen work and brush pen work as well as colour enables me to tell a much richer and deeper and more satisfying story. Also, in terms of more practical materials, I, for a long time, was using this type of paper here that you can see, and it's Fabriano, but it's cold press and it's very, very heavily textured. Because when I was doing watercolour paintings on a big scale, much bigger than this sample piece, it was very much about the effects that you could create with watercolour and, you know, splashing things around and, you know, doing wet on wet on wet. And that was great, and this paper was perfect for it, but it wasn't good for drawing. And when I went down the route of trying to tell much richer, deeper stories, I needed to draw. So I changed from this type of paper to a hot press, smoother paper. And that was something I kind of wish I'd moved into perhaps a few years before that. So I kind of wished I'd kind of got into the drawing side of it much sooner and kind of left the watercolour behind, because I'm combining the two now, but I think the drawing is a much bigger part of it. I think another thing as well is that when you are going down the route of being a commercial artist, and even though I was successful, having lots of shows and selling lots and lots of stuff, you're very restricted in terms of what you're choosing to do. So not just in terms of your choice of materials, like I've mentioned with the paper and the pens, but also just what you're actually drawing. So I know, for example, I was working for a gallery in Chester who became my main agent for probably about 10, 12, 15 years. And they were ordering pictures off me all the time. I get a phone call pretty much every week, you know, ordering pictures. But it was always the kind of same subject. You know, it'd be scenes of London, could be scenes of Venice, could be scenes of Chester, scenes of Liverpool. So you kind of go down that route of almost doing the same thing over and over again because you know you're going to sell them. Now I feel much more emboldened just to go off and draw and paint whatever I want, as long as I'm dragging the students along with me and they're happy with the subject. And that's much more satisfying as an artist. I think that's how we move forward as an artist, by pushing ourselves, not doing the same thing over and over again. Even though it might be easy, it might feel safe, I think you've got to really push yourself and go for the complicated stories. You know, rock up on location and maybe go off the beaten track and look for something that at first when you first see it, first appearances, it doesn't look anything special, doesn't look anything dramatic. But when you fix yourself in that moment and you really start looking at it, it brings up all sorts of wonderful, beautiful things. And that's just you pushing yourself as an artist. And that's something, if I'm really, really being honest with myself, that's something that maybe I could have done a little bit sooner. But you just get sucked into this kind of world of, being successful. And sometimes you don't want to get out of that comfort zone. So there's several things, looking back over the last 10 years as an urban sketching teacher, that maybe I feel like I could have done some of these things a little bit sooner. I've moved into a world now where I feel I'm fulfilling myself. I've got a great team of people around me who support me in all the things that I do. But when you track back and you look back over your career, you think maybe I could have done a few things a little bit sooner.